Every 40 seconds, a train comes rushing by, bringing a new arsenal of thousands of citizens into the metro stations here in Moscow. The city of Moscow plays host to the world's third most heavily used rapid transit system in the world, behind only the Seoul Metropolitan Subway in South Korea and the Tokyo Metro in Japan.
This is Kuzminki.
The Moscow Metro was first built in 1935 before growing to its current state, which consists of 188 stations, 13 different lines, and 195 miles of track that dominate the underground of this beautiful city. Being labeled as the third busiest city, according to the Russian National Tourist Office, the Moscow Metro brings in 2.5 billion passengers a year and about 7 million per day. The Metro operates 9,915 trains, carrying an average of 53 passengers per car, according to Railway Technology. To put this into perspective, the New York subway system, the busiest in the United States, only brings in 1.6 billion passengers a year and around 4.5 million per day. The Moscow Metro prides itself on its efficiency and timeliness. Roman Gordin, a native of Moscow, says that their metro is the most efficient in the world from his experience.
Our metro system is more efficient than what I've seen almost everywhere else. Definitely more efficient than in New York. Unfortunately, it doesn't work 24/7, but during the rush hour, it's like, yeah they come not 15 seconds, but maybe 40 seconds.
Yeah. There is no question that the public transportation here is built for being busy on a daily basis. Trains arrive less than a minute between each other, and each train is packed to the gills at any given time. So how does one of the busiest cities in the world prepare itself even more for the mass amounts of travelers attending the World Cup? One of the biggest obstacles for any country hosting a world event is the native language barrier. For the World Cup, Russia changed the signs in each metro station by adding English translations to accommodate for the influx of foreign travelers. Roman believes that this change is one for the better of the city and hopes it continues after the World Cup.
What's changed though, for good, for the better, is the fact that there's a lot of signs in English, and they've added a lot to that, and it's gotten much better. And even if you are in Moscow for the first time, for just one day, there are a lot of signs and to get to your stadium, one of the two stadiums in Moscow.
Aside from the English translations, the Moscow Metro needed to adapt even further to help ensure safe and rapid travel for its guests. While the metro system works quickly as it is, Polina Gracheva, a professor from the Grint Center at the Moscow University for the Humanities, says that even more trains were added across the country to help make the metro even more efficient.
As I know, they give us around 500 free trains.
Not only were more trains brought in to meet the needs of the mass amounts of people, Polina says that even the trains themselves were upgraded in preparation for the World Cup.
Last time when I traveled on the train, it was maybe around 7 years ago, and the trains was old.
Yeah.
Now it's very new with Wi-Fi, with air condition, with people who works on this train. They smile a lot. No, maybe you know that Russian don't smile a lot. Yes, but now it's incredible. Policemen, train worker, all of them smile. It's a very good change.
The changes made by the Moscow Metro were necessary in order to keep up with the needs of its users throughout the summer of 2018. It is clearly evident that preparation and time was needed to get all of these pieces put into place for everything to run smoothly. During the onset of the 2018 World Cup, it was announced that North America would be the host for the 2026 World Cup. This brings roughly 10 American cities into the mix to host some of these games. With Atlanta projected to host at least one semifinal match, a lot of preparation will need to take place if Atlanta is to manage the rise in travelers and the addition to its traffic mayhem, which already ranks as the fourth worst traffic city in the United States, according to Business Insider. Moscow and Russia as a whole utilize public transportation far more than any city in the U.S. and marginally more than Atlanta ever will. The existing MARTA transit in Atlanta only services around 134 million people per year, numbers Moscow would match in less than 3 weeks' time. MARTA will be a must for travelers if they are looking to get anywhere downtown, but with a train coming on average every 5 minutes, efficiency will have to increase, otherwise many people will just spend their days in MARTA stations waiting and waiting. MARTA has already begun expansion into the Gwinnett area and maybe one day Cobb County. MARTA will need to mimic the Moscow Metro to some degree by adding trains to help reduce this concern. As with Moscow, Atlanta will also need to buff the security presence within the MARTA stations as well due to the U.S. being a hot international target for terrorism and because Atlanta has already been a target before, looking back at the 1996 Olympic Games. Adapting MARTA will help to some degree, but as Americans and its citizens, many will opt to drive themselves. In this case, Atlanta can only do so much to help reduce its congestion. By the time the 2026 World Cup rolls around, Atlanta will have already been the site for a college football national championship, Super Bowl, a Final Four, and many other iconic American championship games, so experience should help the city plan for and expect what is coming. From witnessing Moscow firsthand during the World Cup, American cities and their respective public transportation systems should try to mirror what the Moscow Metro has done in its World Cup preparations. It's all about efficiency and security when it comes to world events, so I have full confidence that in 8 years, the United States will be well prepared to handle the mass amount of visitors coming to see the biggest sporting event in the world.